Jack Morris stood at attention in the gleaming corridor of the Galactic Alliance flagship, trying to ignore the whispers and snickers from the alien warriors passing by. At 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and calloused hands, he was neither the tallest nor the strongest human in the Alliance forces, but to the other species, he might as well have been a monster. "Look at those dense muscles," a tall, willowy Zenith warrior said to his companion in what he thought was a quiet voice. "No wonder they can barely think with all that energy going to their limbs instead of their brains." Jack kept his face blank. After 3 months aboard the ship, he had grown used to such comments. Humans were newcomers to the Galactic Alliance, and as natives of what other species called a Deathworld, they were seen as little more than useful brutes. Earth, with its high gravity, extreme weather patterns, and history of large predators, had produced humans with physical capabilities that seemed excessive to species from gentler worlds. What the aliens failed to understand was that those same harsh conditions had also forced humans to develop intelligence, creativity, and skill to survive. Lieutenant Mary Clark, Jack's squad leader, and the only other human on this mission, walked briskly toward him. Her short blonde hair and sharp blue eyes gave her a severe look that matched her no-nonsense attitude. "Morris, you're with me on the diplomatic detail," she said, checking her tablet. "The negotiations with the Zentari begin in 2 hours, and we're on security." Jack nodded. "Yes, Lieutenant." Mary lowered her voice. "And Jack, keep your cool in there. The Zentari are even worse than the Zeniths when it comes to their attitude about humans. They value art and grace above all else. In their eyes, we're just clumsy giants who happen to build spaceships." "I understand," Jack said simply. What he didn't say was that he'd heard it all before. Before joining the Alliance forces, he had spent 15 years studying historical Earth martial arts, becoming particularly skilled with the katana and other bladed weapons. His teacher, an old Japanese master named Hiroshi, had often told him that true strength came from balance, not brute force, a lesson the aliens might benefit from learning. The diplomatic hall on Zentari Prime was a marvel of architecture. Crystalline. Pillars soared hundreds of feet upward, supporting a dome that seemed to capture and enhance the light of the planet's 3 moons. The floor was polished stone that shifted colors with each step, responding to the weight and movement of those walking upon it. Jack and Mary stood at their assigned posts, flanking the human ambassador, a stern woman named Laura White. The Galactic Alliance had been trying to negotiate mining rights on one of Zentari's uninhabited moons, rich with rare minerals needed for faster-than-light travel. The Zentari delegation entered with typical flair, 12 warriors in silver armor that caught the light and sent it dancing across the hall. Unlike humans, the Zentari were slender, with 4 arms and skin that changed color with their emotions. Currently, they displayed a cool blue-green that signaled formal politeness. Their leader, Emperor Zaltar, glided forward with a grace that made him seem to float above the color-changing floor. Behind him walked his personal guard, the Silverblades, led by Commander Vexnar, an accomplished warrior known throughout 3 star systems for his skill with the energy blade that hung at his hip. The negotiations began with the formal rituals required by Zentari culture, a display of artistic works from both sides followed by music and then finally words. Jack stood perfectly still as he had been trained, but he couldn't help noticing the way Vexnar and his warriors kept glancing at the humans with barely disguised contempt. When the formal part ended and the delegates moved to a more relaxed setting with food and drinks, Vexnar approached Jack directly. "So you are from Earth, the mudball with the high gravity," he said in perfect galactic standard. His skin rippled with yellow patches, amusement. "I find it fascinating that your kind has managed to achieve spaceflight, given your limitations." Jack met his 4-eyed gaze steadily. "Each species has its strengths, Commander." Vexnar's skin flickered with spots of orange, surprise at Jack's measured response. "Indeed, though I wonder what strengths humans possess beyond the ability to lift heavy objects." By now, several other Zentari warriors had gathered around, along with diplomats from both sides. Jack could see Mary tensing nearby, clearly worried about where this was heading. "We have our moments," Jack said simply, Vexnar made a fluid gesture with his upper right arm, the Zentari equivalent of a dismissive laugh. Perhaps you could show us. I propose a friendly exchange of skills, a simple sparring match, to foster cultural understanding. The Zentari Emperor, who had been listening nearby, drifted closer. An excellent suggestion, Commander. The human physique is indeed interesting. I would be curious to see it in motion. His skin was now rippling with patterns of green and gold. Intellectual curiosity. Ambassador White stepped forward quickly. Your Majesty, while we appreciate the interest, our security personnel are here to protect, not perform. Of course, the Emperor said smoothly. But surely a brief cultural exchange would not interfere with security duties. Unless, his skin darkened slightly. Humans are only comfortable with demonstrations of strength when the odds are clearly in their favor. Jack could see the diplomatic trap closing. A refusal now would be seen as weakness or fear. He looked at Mary, who gave him the slightest nod, though her eyes held a warning, don't make things worse. I would be honored to participate in a cultural exchange, Jack said carefully, though I should note that I am not specialized in combat like your silver blades. Vexnar's skin lit up with patches of bright yellow. He was thoroughly amused now. Excellent. We shall use training weapons, of course. Oh, nothing that could cause lasting harm to a visitor from a high-gravity world. The Emperor clapped his lower set of hands together. It is settled then. After the meal, we shall adjourn to the training hall. Commander Vexnar will demonstrate Centauri blade art, and the human will show us whatever it is humans do. As the group dispersed, Mary moved quickly to Jack's side. What are you thinking? She whispered. Vexnar has been training since he could walk. These people turn combat into an art form. Jack watched the Zentari commander walking away, all four arms moving in perfect harmony, his steps so light they barely triggered the color-changing floor. Don't worry, Lieutenant, he said quietly. My teacher always said that true strength comes from unexpected places. He didn't mention that back on Earth, he had won the International Historical Combat Federation Championship 3 years running before, joining the Alliance forces. Just don't embarrass us, Mary sighed. And remember, this is diplomacy, not a real fight. Jack nodded, already thinking about the weight and balance of different weapons, and how the Zentari's 4 arms would change their fighting style. He would need to adapt quickly. What no one in the room suspected was that Earth's long, violent history had produced combat arts far more sophisticated than anything the peaceful Galactic Alliance had ever needed to develop. And Jack Morris, quiet and respectful Jack Morris, was about to show them exactly why Deathworlders were not to be underestimated. The Zentari training hall was a vast circular space with walls that seemed to be made of flowing water, though they were solid to the touch. The floor was covered with a material that felt like sand, but provided perfect grip. Overhead, floating, orbs of soft light drifted like lazy moons, casting the room in a gentle blue glow. Jack stood to one side, watching as various dignitaries and warriors filed in and took their places on curved benches that rose in tiers around the central arena. Ambassador Laura White sat rigidly in the diplomatic section, her face carefully neutral. Lieutenant Mary Clark stood behind her, eyes fixed on Jack with a mix of concern and warning. Emperor Zaltar entered last, his silver robes flowing as if caught in a breeze only he could feel. His skin rippled with patterns of gold and purple, the colors of anticipation and entertainment. All 4 of his arms were adorned with ceremonial bands that caught the light as he moved. Today we share cultural traditions, the Emperor announced, his voice carrying easily through the hall. Commander Vexnar will demonstrate the 10,000-year-old art of Zentari blade dance, and then our human guest will show us Earth combat skills. His skin flickered with yellow patches when he said the last words, drawing chuckles from the Zentari audience. Commander Vexnar stepped forward into the center of the arena and bowed deeply to his Emperor. He wore lighter armor now, designed for training, but still made of the same silver material that seemed alive with reflected light. From a weapons rack carried by 2 junior warriors, he selected 4 energy blades, 1 for each arm. What followed was truly a dance. Vexnar activated the blades, which hummed to life with blue energy fields extending a foot beyond the metal. Then he began to move. His body twisted and turned with impossible grace, the 4 blades cutting through the air so quickly they left trails of light behind them. He spun, jumped, and rolled, never missing a beat, never allowing the blades to touch anything but air. Jack watched carefully, noting the patterns, the way Vexnar's weight shifted, the moments when he was balanced, on one foot or committed to a movement that couldn't be easily changed. The Zentari fighting style was beautiful, fluid, and deadly, but it also had weaknesses that someone from a high-gravity world might exploit. When Vexnar finished his demonstration with a flourish that brought all 4 blades together in a burst of bright energy, the audience erupted in applause. The commander's skin glowed bright orange with pride as he bowed again to his emperor. "And now," Emperor Zaltar said, his voice filled with poorly hidden amusement, "let us see what the human can do." Jack stepped forward into the arena. He wore his standard Alliance uniform, plain gray with blue trim, designed for function rather than show. Compared to the gleaming Zentari, he looked dull and ordinary. "What weapon do you prefer?" Vexnar asked, gesturing to the rack of training weapons with one of his upper arms. Jack scanned the selection. There were staffs, curved blades, straight blades, and several weapons he didn't recognize. "A sword," he said simply. "Something like that." "One." He pointed to a straight blade about 3 feet long. Vexnar's skin rippled with yellow patches again. "A simple choice for a simple species," he said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. He handed Jack the weapon. Jack took it and stepped back, feeling its weight and balance. It was lighter than he was used to, designed for the Zentari's lower gravity physiology, but it would do. He gave it a few practice swings, adjusting his grip. "Would you like some time to prepare?" Vexnar asked, his tone making it clear he thought Jack needed it. "No," Jack said. "I'm ready when you are." Vexnar's skin flickered with surprise, then settled into a confident blue-green. "Very well. Since this is a friendly exchange, I will use only 2 blades." He set 2 of his energy weapons aside and kept 1 in each of his upper arms. "And I will restrict my movements to what a 2-armed species might attempt." Jack nodded, his face giving away nothing. An older Zentari stepped between them. "This is a demonstration only," he said firmly. "Contact is allowed but should be light. The exercise ends when I call it, or if either participant yields." He looked at both of them. "Begin when ready." Vexnar didn't wait. He lunged forward, with both blades moving so quickly that several gasps rose from the audience. It was a move clearly designed to overwhelm an inexperienced opponent. Fast, aggressive, and intimidating. Jack didn't try to match the Zentari's speed. Instead, he took a single step to the side and let the blue energy blades pass within inches of his chest. Then, with a motion so controlled it seemed almost casual, he tapped his training sword against Vexnar's right arm as it extended past him. The hall went silent. Vexnar froze, then slowly turned, his skin now showing patches of dark green. Confusion. If the blades had been real, Jack's counter would have taken his arm off. "A lucky move," the commander said, his voice tight. "Let us continue." This time Vexnar approached more cautiously. He circled Jack, testing with quick jabs and feints. Jack matched his movements, his footwork precise, his guard neither too high nor too low. When Vexnar attacked again with a complex combination of strikes from both blades, Jack parried each one with minimal movement, his blade always exactly where it needed to be. After a minute of this, whispers began to spread through the audience. The human wasn't just defending, he was controlling the space between them, forcing Vexnar to attack in ways that played to Jack's strengths. Lieutenant Mary watched with widening eyes. In all their time serving together, she had never seen Jack move like this. His face remained calm, almost detached, but his body flowed from one position to another with a grace that rivaled the Zentari's. Vexnar, frustrated by his inability to break through Jack's defense, launched an all-out assault. a whirlwind of slashes and stabs that came from all angles. It was his signature move, one that had defeated champions from a dozen worlds. Jack waited until the last possible moment. Then, instead of backing away as expected, he stepped forward into the attack. He ducked under one blade, deflected the other with his sword, and closed the distance between them. Before anyone fully understood what had happened, Jack stood with his training sword resting lightly against Vexnar's neck. The commander's own. Blades were out of position, unable to counter. The silence in the hall was absolute. Even Emperor Zaltar's skin had gone still, the patterns frozen in a display of shock. "I yield," Vexnar said, his voice barely audible. Jack immediately stepped back and lowered his weapon. He gave a small bow to the commander, then to the Emperor. "How?" Vexnar asked, his skin now showing a mix of colors that indicated confusion, respect, and lingering disbelief. "Earth is old," Jack said simply. "We've had a long time to learn how to fight." Emperor Zaltar rose to his feet. His skin had settled into a deep purple, the color of deep thought. "It seems," he said, addressing the hall but looking directly at Jack, "that we have much to learn about our human allies." He turned to Ambassador White. "I believe we should continue our discussions with this new understanding between us." As Jack returned the training sword to the rack, he caught Mary's eye. She shook her head slightly, but there was a smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. What had begun as entertainment for the Zentari had become something else entirely, a revelation that would change how the Galactic Alliance viewed humans from the death world called Earth. The grand banquet hall of the Zentari Palace glowed with a soft amber light. Floating orbs of illumination drifted above long tables where diplomats, warriors, and nobles from both sides sat together. The walls, made of the same flowing yet solid material as the training hall, now displayed scenes of past Zentari glory, battles won, treaties signed, and worlds explored. Jack sat at one of the middle tables, uncomfortably aware that many eyes kept turning in his direction. The demonstration in the training hall had changed something. Where before he had received looks of amusement or disdain, now he saw curiosity, respect, and even wariness in the eyes of the Zentari. "You might have warned me," Lieutenant Mary Clark said in a low voice as she took the seat beside him. "All, this time working together. And you never mentioned you were some kind of swordmaster." Jack shrugged. "It never came up." He took a sip from a crystal goblet filled with a sweet Zentari beverage. "On Earth, it was just a hobby, historical combat recreation. I didn't think it would matter out here." Mary shook her head. "Well, it matters now. Ambassador White is practically dancing. The Zentari have offered us much better terms for the mining rights. Apparently, they respect strength more than they let on." She leaned closer. "And Commander Vexnar has been asking about you." Before Jack could respond, a hush fell over the hall. Emperor Zaltar had risen from his seat at the head table. His silver robe seemed to capture and amplify the amber light, making him the brightest figure in the room. His skin displayed rippling patterns of gold and deep blue, ceremonial colors for formal announcements. "Honored guests," the Emperor began, his voice carrying easily through the hall. "Today marks a new chapter in relations between Zentari and Earth. We have seen that our differences—" He stopped abruptly, his four eyes focusing on something near the entrance to the hall. Jack turned to look. 3 Zentari guards lay on the floor just inside the doorway. Standing over them were 5 figures in dark armor unlike anything Jack had seen before. Their helmets completely covered their faces, and they carried weapons that hummed with a sickly green energy. "Krell!" someone shouted, and the hall erupted in panic. Jack had heard of the Krell Dominion during his briefings, a hostile empire that opposed the Galactic Alliance and had been causing trouble on the borders for years. But they had never been bold enough to attack a diplomatic gathering, especially on Zentari Prime. The intruders moved with frightening speed. 2 of them headed directly for Emperor Zaltar, while the others began firing their weapons into the crowd. The energy bolts they fired didn't seem designed to kill. Instead, they paralyzed anyone they hit, leaving them conscious but unable to move. The silver blades leapt into action, forming a protective circle around their emperor. Vexnar activated all four of his energy blades and stood at the forefront, his skin now a solid red, the color of battle rage. Jack looked around frantically for weapons. The Zentari tradition forbade weapons at diplomatic banquets, which was why the Krell had chosen this moment to attack. The Alliance security team had been required to leave their standard-issue energy pistols outside the hall. "Morris, get down," Mary shouted, pulling him behind an overturned table as a green energy bolt sizzled through the air where he had been standing. The Krell attackers had clearly planned well. They were using the panic to their advantage, herding the crowd to create clear paths to their targets. Jack watched as another bolt hit one of the silver blades, dropping the warrior where he stood. "We need weapons," Jack said, scanning the room. His eyes fell on the decorative wall displays. Among the flowing scenes of Zentari history were actual weapons, ancient swords and spears used in battles long past, mounted as art pieces. "Cover me," he told Mary, and before she could protest, he was moving. Jack stayed low, using the chaos, and overturned furniture to shield his approach to the nearest wall. A Krell warrior turned toward him, weapon raising, but Ambassador White chose that moment to hurl a heavy crystal decanter, hitting the attacker in the shoulder and disrupting his aim. Reaching the wall, Jack grabbed a long, slightly curved sword from its display mount. It was old but well preserved, its edge still sharp. He tested its weight, heavier than the training weapon he'd used earlier, but manageable. Across the room, he could see that the Krell had nearly reached Emperor Zaltar. Vexinar and the remaining silver blades were putting up a fierce defense, but their energy blades seemed less effective against the Krell armor than expected. "Lieutenant," Jack called to Mary, who had worked her way to a position behind another table. "Get the ambassador out of here." Mary nodded and began making her way toward Ambassador White, who was huddled with other diplomats in a corner. Jack took a deep breath, recalling his old teacher's words. "The sword is not a weapon. It is an extension of yourself. Let it move, as naturally as your own arm." Then he charged. The first Krell didn't see him coming. Jack's sword cut through the attacker's weapon arm with surprising ease. The alien screamed, a high electronic sound through its helmet, and spun around. Jack didn't give it time to recover. His second strike found the gap between helmet and body armor, and the Krell dropped. The other attackers noticed him now. One broke off from the assault on the Emperor and turned to face Jack, firing rapidly. Jack ducked and weaved, using tables and chairs as cover. He was grateful now for Earth's higher gravity. It made him faster and stronger in this environment than even he had realized. When he was close enough, Jack didn't hesitate. He leapt over a fallen table and brought his sword, down in a powerful strike that split the Krell's weapon in two. The alien tried to back away, but Jack followed with a thrust that found another weak point in the armor. By now, Vexnar had noticed what was happening. The Zentari commander's skin showed patches of surprise alongside the battle red. He shouted something to his warriors in their native language, and two of them broke off to help Jack. Together, they drove toward the remaining Krell attackers. Jack found himself fighting alongside the very warriors who had mocked him hours earlier. There was no mockery now, only the focused intensity of battle. One of the Krell managed to hit a silver blade with a paralyzing bolt. As the Zentari warrior fell, Jack caught the energy blade that dropped from his hand. Now armed with both the ancient sword and a modern weapon, he pressed forward. The last two Krell, seeing their plan falling apart, made a desperate rush for the Emperor. Vexnar met one with all four of his blades whirling in that deadly dance Jack had seen in the training hall. The commander was magnificent in true combat, his movements even more precise and lethal than during the demonstration. Jack took on the final attacker. The Krell fired repeatedly, forcing Jack to dodge and weave. One bolt grazed his shoulder, sending numbness down his left arm. Switching the energy blade to his right hand, Jack kept moving. He closed the distance and engaged the Krell in close combat. The alien was skilled, blocking Jack's strikes with its armored forearms, but Jack had something the Krell didn't: experience fighting in high gravity. He feinted left, then dropped low and swept the Krell's legs out from under it. As the attacker fell, Jack's energy blade found the seam in its armor at the waist. The fight was over. The hall grew quiet except for the moans of the injured and the hum of energy blades. Jack stood slowly, his left arm beginning to regain feeling. Across the room, Vexnar straightened as well, his forearms lowering their weapons. The two warriors looked at each other across the debris-strewn hall. Slowly, deliberately, Vexnar's skin changed from battle red to a deep purple, the color of profound respect. He gave Jack a formal bow, all four arms crossed over his chest. Emperor Zaltar, protected throughout the attack by his loyal guards, stepped forward. His skin showed a complex pattern that Jack couldn't interpret, but his voice was clear and strong. "It seems," the Emperor said, looking directly at Jack, "that we have greatly underestimated the warriors of Earth." The medical bay of the Zentari Palace was unlike any hospital Jack had seen before. Instead of beds, the injured rested in shallow pools of glowing blue liquid that seemed to move with a purpose, flowing around wounds and broken limbs. Zentari healers moved between the pools, their skin displaying patterns of white and pale green, colors of healing and care. Jack sat on a bench near the entrance, holding still as a healer applied a clear gel to his shoulder where the Krell energy bolt had struck him. The numbness was fading, replaced by a tingling sensation that wasn't entirely unpleasant. "You are fortunate," the healer said, her four eyes examining the wound carefully. "The Krell weapons are designed to paralyze, not kill. Had it been set to full power, your arm might never have moved again." "Thank you for your help," Jack said, flexing his fingers as feeling returned. The healer's skin rippled with patches of curious yellow. "You are the first human I have treated. Your physiology is fascinating, so dense yet so efficient." She finished applying the gel and stepped back. "Rest for an hour, then you may leave." As the healer moved away to tend to other patients, Lieutenant Mary Clark approached. She had a small cut on her forehead but otherwise looked unharmed. "You're a popular man, Morris," she said, sitting beside him. "The Zentari warriors won't stop talking about you. Apparently fighting with an ancient blade against modern weapons is something they consider either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. They haven't decided which yet." Jack shrugged. It was the only weapon available. Mary shook her head. "Commander Vexnar wants to speak with you when you're cleared by medical, and the Emperor has called an emergency meeting of his council. Ambassador White will represent Earth, and she's requested that you attend as well." "Me? Why?" "Because you're the man of the hour." Mary's expression became serious. "The Krell have never been this bold before. An attack in the middle of a diplomatic function, on the Zentari homeworld no less. Something big is happening." An hour later, Jack found himself in a circular chamber deep within the palace. 12 Zentari council members sat in elevated seats that formed a ring around a central platform where Emperor Zaltar stood. Ambassador White was there as well, along with representatives from 3 other Alliance species. Commander Vexnar stood at attention near his Emperor, his skin now a steady blue of formal attention. Jack felt out of place in his simple Alliance uniform, especially when a palace attendant ushered him to stand beside the ambassador on the central platform. "We have examined the captured Krell attackers," Emperor Zaltar was saying as Jack arrived. "They were indeed agents of the Dominion, sent specifically to disrupt these negotiations and, if possible, eliminate key figures." His 4 eyes shifted briefly to Jack. "What we have learned is troubling." A holographic display appeared in the air above them, showing star maps and fleet movements. Jack recognized the borders of the Galactic Alliance in blue, with the Krell Dominion territories marked in red. "The Krell have been systematically testing our defenses," Vexnar explained. Stepping forward, "This attack was meant to create chaos in the Alliance by eliminating the Zentari leadership and disrupting our new partnership with Earth." "But why target Earth specifically?" Ambassador White asked. "We're new to the Alliance, not a major power." Yet. The Emperor's skin darkened to a deep purple. "That is where things become concerning." When questioned, the Krell revealed that they view humans as a particular threat. Their intelligence reports classify Earth as a danger that must be neutralized before humans spread further into the galaxy. Jack felt the weight of every eye in the room turning to him. "We were confused by this assessment," Vexnar admitted, his skin showing bands of yellow puzzlement. "Until today we shared their view that humans were limited. He bowed slightly to Jack. We were wrong. One of the council members leaned forward. The human demonstrated combat skills that surprised even our silver blades. But surely one warrior cannot explain why the Krell fear an entire species. Ambassador White cleared her throat. If I may, Your Majesty? When the Emperor nodded, she continued. The Alliance initially invited Earth to join because of our industrial capacity and resources. What we didn't emphasize was our military history. She gestured to Jack. What Private Morris demonstrated today isn't unusual among our people. Earth has known war for most of its history. Our high-gravity, varied environments and natural predators forced us to become adaptable, resourceful fighters. Many humans still practice ancient combat forms as he does. The Krell intelligence is correct in one respect, she added. Humans adapt quickly to new situations and new technologies. What took other species centuries to master, we often learn in decades. The council chamber filled with murmurs at this. Jack stood silently, uncomfortable being the center of attention, but understanding now why he had been invited. Emperor Zaltar raised all 4 hands for silence. The attack today has changed many things. The Krell have shown their hand too early, perhaps out of fear. Now we must respond. His skin rippled with patterns of gold determination. Commander Vexnar has proposed something unprecedented, the Emperor continued. A joint training program between our silver blades and human warriors, combining our techniques and technologies with your unique perspectives. Vexnar stepped forward. The human, Private Morris, defeated one of our best warriors using only his planet's primitive techniques. Then he fought the Krell using both an ancient blade and our energy weapons together, in ways we would never have considered. The commander's skin showed patches of respectful purple. Imagine what we could accomplish if we learned from each other. Ambassador White looked surprised, but pleased. Such cooperation would benefit both our worlds, a council member spoke up. And what of the Krell? Their forces are gathering. They will not stop with one failed attack. That is why we must act quickly, the Emperor said. Intelligence suggests the Krell are planning something larger. Possibly an attack on multiple Alliance worlds simultaneously. We have already dispatched warnings, but more is needed. He turned to Jack directly. Private Morris, would you be willing to help train our warriors in your Earth combat techniques, and perhaps learn some of ours in return? Jack looked to Ambassador White, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, Your Majesty, Jack said. I would be honored. Excellent. The Emperor's skin glowed with bright determination. Commander Vexnar will arrange everything. Training begins tomorrow. As the council meeting ended and the members filed out, Vexnar approached Jack. The Zentari commander's skin now displayed a complex pattern of purple respect mixed with blue curiosity. I misjudged you and your species, Vexnar said simply. It will not happen again. Jack nodded. We all have things to learn from each other. Indeed. Vexnar's upper right hand extended in what Jack recognized as a gesture of warrior respect. Perhaps you can show me that move you used in our sparring match? The one where you stepped inside my guard? I'd be happy to, Jack said, taking the offered hand. And maybe you can teach me how you handle 4 blades at once. For the first time, Jack saw the Zentari commander's skin flash with a brief pattern, a friendly yellow, not mockery this time, but genuine amusement. Deal, Vexnar said. Tomorrow we begin preparing for what comes next. The Krell thought to use our prejudice against your kind to weaken the Alliance. Instead, they have forged a stronger bond between us. As they walked from the council chamber, Jack realized how quickly things had changed. This morning he had been a curiosity, a primitive brute in the eyes of the Zentari. Now he was something else entirely, a warrior, a teacher, and perhaps even the beginning of a new understanding between Earth and the stars. 2 weeks had passed since the Krell attack on the Zentari palace. In an open courtyard beneath the planet's 3 moons, Jack stood surrounded by 20 silver blade warriors. Their skin displayed various patterns of concentration as they followed. His movements, each holding a simple metal sword instead of their usual energy blades. Again, Jack said, demonstrating a sequence of strikes and footwork. Remember, The weight of the blade can work for you. Let momentum help you transition between positions. The Zentari warriors repeated the exercise, their forearms giving them different options than a human would have. Jack walked among them, correcting stances and grips, still amazed at how quickly they learned. Commander Vexnar stood to one side, his skin showing the deep blue of focused attention. He had mastered most of the basic forms Jack taught already, and was working on adapting them to the Zentari physiology. Excellent progress, Jack told the group as they finished the sequence. Tomorrow we'll combine these movements with the energy blade techniques. As the warriors dispersed for the evening meal, Vexnar approached Jack. Your methods are effective, the commander said. My warriors have improved their close combat skills significantly, and my sword work with energy blades has improved. Thanks to your training, Jack replied. It was true. He had spent as much time learning as teaching during these 2 weeks. Vexnar's skin rippled with bands of concern. I received word from the border outpost today. The Krell fleet movements have increased. Our intelligence suggests they will strike soon. Jack nodded grimly. Similar reports had been coming in from across the Alliance. The Krell were massing, their forces apparently ready to launch the large-scale attack Emperor Zaltar had warned about. Are your warriors ready? Jack asked. Vexnar's skin showed a complex pattern of determination mixed with uncertainty. They are better prepared than they were 2 weeks ago, but the Krell have been preparing for this much longer. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Lieutenant Mary Clark, who hurried across the courtyard toward them. Her expression told Jack everything he needed to know before she even spoke. They've attacked Outpost Nexus 7, Mary said without preamble. The Alliance defense fleet is engaged, but the Krell outnumber them 3-1. Vexnar's skin flashed battle red. Nexus 7 is only 2 light jumps from Zentari Prime. If it falls, our homeworld is exposed. The Emperor has ordered the Silver Blades to reinforce the station, Mary continued, and Ambassador White has authorized all Earth personnel to join the defense. She looked directly at Jack, including us. 4 hours later, Jack stood in the deployment bay of a Zentari battlecruiser as it dropped out of light jump near Outpost Nexus 7. Through the viewport, he could see the battle raging around the large space station. Alliance ships, recognizable by their blue running lights, were engaged with the angular black vessels of the Krell Dominion. It's worse than we thought, Vexnar said, joining Jack at the viewport. The commander was fully armored now, all 4 energy blades hanging at his sides. The Krell are using some new technology. Reports say it's disrupting energy weapons. Jack frowned. What kind of disruption? Energy blades lose cohesion when they get close to Krell troops. Alliance blaster fire dissipates before reaching targets. Vexnar's skin showed bands of tactical calculation. They've found a way to neutralize our technological advantage. Jack thought for a moment. But physical weapons would still work? Yes. Vexnar's skin rippled with understanding. Like the swords we've been training with. Jack turned to Mary, who was checking her equipment nearby. Lieutenant, did we bring those training swords from the palace? Mary nodded. Yes, along with the standard gear. Why? Because we might need them. Jack turned back to Vexnar. Commander, I think we should prepare your warriors for close combat. Real close combat. Understanding dawned in Vexnar's 4 eyes. His skin flashed with decision, and he began issuing orders to his warriors. When the battlecruiser docked with Nexus 7, the situation inside the station was chaotic. Alliance defenders were retreating from several sections, their energy weapons effectively useless against the advancing Krell forces. Captain Dan Wright, the Alliance officer in command of the station, met them at the docking bay. His uniform was scorched, and he had a makeshift bandage on one arm. The Krell have taken 3 levels already, he reported grimly. Whatever they're using messes with our weapons. The energy just fades when it gets near them. Jack stepped forward, a metal sword in his hand and a standard-issue knife at his belt. Behind him, Vexnar's silver blades were similarly armed with the training swords from the palace, though they still carried their energy blades as well. Captain, Jack said, we might have a solution. Wright looked skeptical. Swords? Against Krell shock troops? Trust me, Jack said, we've been training for this. The captain looked to Vexnar, who gave the Zentari equivalent of a nod. Very well, Wright said finally. They're pushing toward the command center on level 4. If you can stop them there. We will, Vexnar promised, his skin now the solid red of battle readiness. The mixed force of humans and Zentari moved through the station's corridors, encountering panicked Alliance personnel retreating from the Krell advance. When they reached level 4, they could hear the sound of fighting ahead, the distinctive hum of energy weapons trying and failing to activate, and the harsh electronic barking that served as Krell battle language. Jack raised his sword. Remember, your training, he told the Silver Blades. Let them come to you. Use their momentum against them. Close distance quickly and strike decisively. Vexnar's warriors arranged themselves in formation behind Jack and their commander. Mary and the other human alliance members took positions with standard kinetic weapons, simple projectile guns that had been considered outdated until now. Then the Krell turned the corner. They were impressive in their full battle armor, taller than humans and bulkier than Zentari, with helmets that completely concealed their features. Each carried a heavy energy rifle that hummed with the same sickly green power Jack remembered from the palace attack. The Krell spotted the defenders and opened fire immediately. Green energy bolts sizzled through the air. Jack and the front line dropped to one knee, letting the shots pass overhead. Now, Jack shouted. The Alliance forces charged. The Krell, expecting their enemies to fall back in the face of superior firepower, hesitated just long enough for Jack, Vexnar, and the Silver Blades to close the distance. What followed was unlike any battle the station had ever seen. Jack moved, as his old teacher had taught him, his sword an extension of his arm, finding gaps in the Krell armor that energy weapons would have sealed instantly. Beside him, Vexnar fought with the flowing grace of Zentari blade dancing, but now enhanced with the direct, efficient movements Jack had taught him. The Krell tried to fall back, to open distance where their energy rifles would be effective. But the narrow corridor worked against them. Their technology, designed to counter the Alliance's energy weapons, had no effect on the ancient metal slicing through their armor. Slowly, methodically, the combined human and Zentari force pushed the Krell back. More Alliance defenders joined them, grabbing whatever physical weapons they could find, maintenance tools, pieces of equipment, even broken metal from damaged walls. When the last Krell in this section fell, Vexnar turned to Jack. The commander's skin showed battle red mixed with triumphant gold. Your Earth tactics work, he said simply. Jack nodded, catching his breath. The oldest solutions sometimes work best for the newest problems. Captain Wright approached them, amazement clear on his face. I've already sent word to the other sections. Everyone switching to physical weapons where possible. He shook his head. Swords against energy rifles. Who would have thought? The Krell, Mary said, joining them. That's why they feared humans in the first place. They knew we might bring old ways of fighting that their technology couldn't counter. Vexnar's skin rippled with thoughtful purple. They feared what they did not understand, that sometimes moving backward is the way to move forward. Over the next 6 hours, the tide of battle turned. Alliance forces across the station adopted the same tactics, engaging the Krell in close combat where their energy-disrupting technology offered no advantage. In space, Alliance ships used kinetic weapons, simple missiles and projectiles instead of energy beams, with similar success. When the Krell finally retreated, pulling their ships back into light jump, the command center of Nexus 7 erupted in cheers. Jack stood quietly to one side, watching as humans and aliens celebrated together. Emperor Zaltar's face appeared on the main view screen, his skin showing patterns of victory gold. Commander Vexnar, Captain Wright, the Alliance owes you a great debt today. Vexnar's skin rippled with humble blue. The victory belongs to all who fought, Your Majesty, but special recognition must go to Private Jack Morris of Earth, whose teachings made our success possible. The Emperor's 4 eyes found Jack in the crowd. Once again, the human from the Deathworld has surprised us all. First with a demonstration of skill, then with a lesson in history. His skin shifted to show deep purple respect. The Alliance will not forget this day. As the transmission ended, Vexnar approached Jack and extended all four arms in the highest form of Zentari respect. The warriors who once Maka